This is Channel 253. Beep, boop, boop, boop.
On this episode of the Grit and Grain Podcast.
I'm basically in Yakima every day just smelling hops. We'll smell up to 60 in a day. We take a lot of breaks. We do a lot of rotations where we get real silly. Because, when you're smelling that many hops in a day, there's just some things that happen, man.
Welcome to the Grit and Grain Podcast, where we explore and celebrate the craft beer industry, community, and history in Tacoma, Washington, and surrounding Pacific Northwest areas. Thank you so much for hanging out. Let's get to it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Grit and Grain Podcast, coming to you guys from the historic Parkway Tavern in Tacoma, Washington. My name is Matt McLaren. Am I good, Doug? Yeah. Was that it? Oh. I was like, wait, did I fuck that up?
And cut.
No, we're good. Leave it in. I don't care. My name is Matt McLaren. I'm here as always with Ron Swarner.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I think I need to rent Sean's nipples.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's just so much context needed.
No, it's true, though. There's apps for pretty much everything these days.
Damn it.
Swimming pools, cars. I mean, yeah. Like, done deal.
Can you guys tell we're recording this on a Friday? Yeah, and of course, Sean Jackson. Hello, sir.
Hello. My senses are alive with the sound of music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's good.
Yeah.
You look it.
Synesthesia?
You're glowing. Doug was
Yeah.
right.
All right.
So many colors. Or something's about to happen to me.
Yeah. That works.
Just hallucination.
Yeah.
As I know, right? Do you smell cookies?
Yeah. Burning toast.
So yeah, as I said, this is a kind of a special Friday recording because we have a special guest in house who probably wouldn't be able to roll over on a Wednesday. This person is somebody actually we've been talking about bringing her on for a minute, and she has a long history in this industry, working with some beer that a lot of people will be very familiar with, but also doing a job now that a lot of people I don't think even realize exists, and it's kind of a chance to highlight some of the people that work on the raw ingredients that go into the beer in everybody's glass, and you don't even think about the type of stuff that goes into it sometimes until you actually hear from these folks. So our guest today is my friend Rikki Welz from Haas Farms. Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
We're so pumped to have you here. I've been gushing about you for a while, and I think you and I have run into each other a couple times, but really the last time we spent any time together was during our advanced Cicerone exams in Chicago. So we'll talk about that. For anybody who doesn't really follow kind of that world or that side of the industry, Rikki is the first and only female advanced Cicerone in Washington, and one of just 4 or 5 of us, which is awesome. And usually there's no more than 2 of us in the same room, or no more than 1 of us in the same room. So I'm glad you're here.
It's like a Highlander thing.
Yeah, totally. We're totally gonna do battle after this.
We're going to do like blind smelling or something, maybe. I don't know.
And she's gonna destroy me at that because that's her actual fucking job.
Yeah, yep.
Before all of that, though, what are you drinking?
Oh, yeah, sure. Right now I'm having the Checkanut Kolsch. Checkanut is always like just a must for me. So I live in Ellensburg. So we do definitely have like a lot of great options for beers, but not as often or as fresh sometimes as I want it to be. So as soon as I go west of the Cascades, I usually start with a Checkanut, honestly.
Nice.
Like I like a good lager, man.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call. Sean, what do you got?
The Matchless, the Bridge Pale Ale.
Oh, all right. No barley wine?
No.
All right.
No.
It's like a sunny Friday, so I kind of feel it. Ron, what do you have?
I have the Ravenna Beachcomber Dry Hop Pilsner.
Oh, how
It's
is that?
quite lovely.
I'm gonna get that
It's got
during the break.
Yuzu on the nose.
Really?
Yeah.
Sounds like you're bullshitting. Hang on. Let me smell it.
Do you know what hops they put in it?
Nah, you're right.
Because Nelson.
Oh, okay, fun.
Yeah.
Delicious. Yeah, it's like yuzu is like it's like lemon on steroids. It's like very punchy.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a Skookum Hazy IPA. They're volatile substance.
Let me smell it. Let me
Swiftly
smell it.
renamed. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry, I just snatched your beer.
You guys are drinking different today.
I agree.
I know we are. We got here at different times, so we're not drinking the same beer.
Oh.
Usually we grab the exact same thing. Or Ron just grabs me whatever he's drinking because I trust him. So yeah, like I said, Rikki has a long history in this industry, and again, she was working with a beer that a lot of us are very familiar with, at least at some level, even if you don't really dig into craft beer super hard. How long did you say you were working at Iron Horse?
So I got hired at Iron Horse Brewery in March of 2013.
Goodness.
Wow. Yeah.
So you, that was before I was even really in the industry like that.
Yeah.
Was that before the variations?
Well, technically, Mocha Death had already been happening.
Okay.
Yeah, because Mocha Death was pretty early on, before they even, I believe, expanded into the bigger production facility. That was. I wasn't there, but that's a good fuck up story. So you guys need to have Ross on one of these days to talk about it, Ross or Gary, because let's talk about taking a fuck up story and just making a gold with it. Yeah, like
Sweet.
Yeah, they. From what I understand, it was like somebody fucked up the malt profile. They did like a few less bags of this, a few more bags of that, and somebody had been telling Greg and Ross like, "Hey guys, seriously, coffee stout. Why can't we have a coffee stout? Give us a coffee stout. Coffee stout, coffee stout, coffee stout." And they said, "Fuck it. We're going to go get coffee. We're going to go to D&M and get some coffee. We're going to go to the store and get all the chocolate we can find." And then Mocha Death was born.
Put it into this fucked up version of this beer.
Yeah. It's like, it's no longer Irish Death, so you might as well make it something fun, you know?
Sweet.
Yeah. So it was great. And it's
awesome.
Worked out very well.
Yeah, geez. That was like, we had, because I was a buyer at Bevmo probably about a year after you started at Iron Horse, and I was like still kind of learning everything. Irish Death was the first beer that I ever brought to a bottle share that I got invited to, and it was a sour bottle share, which shows you how new I was.
You know what's funny? Have you ever had? There's actually a Belgian beer. So there's it's Oer beer. So there's like a little yellow, like kind of like marshmallow looking stick figure thing, and they're Naturtras or Naturstras, something like that. I swear is like if you made Irish Death into a sour beer, that's what it tastes like, and it's
Really?
so freaking good. And it's like it's a pretty like I guess easy to find Belgian beer if you're in Belgium. So like I had to buy it from like beersofbelgium.com or
One
something
prereq.
like that. But like if you look for it's Oer OEBIER Naturstraps or something like that. It's
Okay.
a dark sour, and I swear that's what Irish Death as a sour beer is.
Damn.
It is
Wow.
the coolest.
If I had that context, I could have made myself look way cooler
Yeah.
after bringing that.
So Matt, when you approached the group, the sour group with the beer, what style did you call the beer?
I don't.
Oh, that's a good
That is
question.
a good question. I didn't even know. I just knew that it was a dark beer. I didn't know shit about beer when I brought that. I grew up in the Harmon. Like, I knew enough, and I actually worked in the brewery. Like, I knew enough, but I didn't know enough to know that, like, I don't bring Irish Death to a sour share. Everybody was like, "Oh, perfect. We'll need a palate cleanser." And I was like, "Oh, good." But I don't know. Do we want to have that debate right now? Rikki can probably help us settle it.
Are you going to talk about what Irish Death is as a style?
Correct.
Yep.
So it is a dark smooth ale. So it does not count as any one thing or another. I have very strong opinions on what I think it could be called, even though it still doesn't technically fall into quite those parameters. But if you taste it and you don't know, I would call it a Baltic Porter.
Dude.
Ross
okay.
would arm wrestle me about this, but to me, it's like it doesn't fit. And that was the thing though with Irish Death is I believe what Jim Quilter wanted to do. I never got to meet him. Was he just wanted to make a beer that he wanted to drink. He wanted it strong and heavy and fun and delicious, but still sessionable. Because like some people like try to compare it to Guinness when it's absolutely not a Guinness. Guinness is
it's
very much a different style of beer.
Totally.
But if you were to start looking at certain Baltic porters, you kind of start falling into that similar kind of wavelength. Like if you do a dark beer lineup, and you get like maybe like some nut brown ales or like imperial something, you know, you put an Irish Death in there and it's kind of starts leaning in that way, in my opinion.
I would agree with that actually.
Yeah.
But I've heard like American Strong Ale and I've heard Porter and Stout and all that. And it's always like, it's funny because if you have a Venn diagram of like 5 or 6 different styles, like Irish Death sits in the middle of all of them in a way, but there's like one parameter that doesn't hit on all of these things.
Exactly,
It's
yeah.
off by one thing every
Yeah, because
time.
like it doesn't use lager yeast. The
Right.
IBUs are way too low or way too high, depending on what beer it is. Like
Yep.
the alcohol percentage is too high or too low. The certain like fruity characteristics of it, because like Irish Death is like very much like a dark toast with like a little bit of dark chocolate, and then you get some raisins and some figs in there, and some other kind of things that all kind of help and work together. But you don't get that with an imperial stout. An imperial stout is also going to have a lot of that balance of the hoppy finish or even the roasty finish. An Irish Death should not be roasty. So it's like there's so many nuances. It's amazing.
It's crazy that a beer that doesn't really fit any kind of style got so popular.
Oh yeah. Well, it's so funny too because again, I guess you guys really need Rots here, but I've had so many people say my grandpa drinks 2 beers. Busch Light and Irish Death, or people who are like, I'm not even a beer drinker. I drink wine and then I drink Irish Death.
Totally.
Irish Death is one of those, it's like a good gateway beer for a lot of people into craft beer is what I found over the years. And then also it's so consistent and it's always going to have exactly what you need. And so St. Patty's Day there, right now, the production team is just ramping up and getting all those beers ready to go because St. Patty's Day around the Northwest, we don't drink Guinness, we drink Irish Death. Why would we drink Guinness? That's not made around here. You got Irish Death.
Dude, you just hyped me the fuck up for Irish Death.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't craved that beer in a minute, but now I'm like, fuck, I kind of want some right now.
Yeah.
I'm fucking hyped.
Put a widget in it.
Put a widget. So what did you do during your time at Iron Horse?
Oh, so many things. I was hired as a part-time server. I really hated working at a very big bank that has very red and yellow lettering. At the height of the time that they were really doing fucked up things, and I was getting pushed to you need to sell a personal loan to some grandma, something like that. It's just she doesn't need that. Why would I do that? And so I kept getting in trouble for not hitting my sales. And so we had a big fire in Ellensburg. It was a Taylor Bridge fire. So it was actually most of central Washington. Kittitas County was just devastated by this.
Yeah.
And I noticed when I was working at the bank that the local brewery, Iron Horse, was as soon as that fire happened, the next day it was all sales today are going to one of our regulars because he lost his home in the fire. And I'm like, this immediate action that you can do on a small scale as a business was really cool. And then also at the time I was starting to get more and more into craft beer. Excuse me, as I drink too much beer. So I thought it was really cool to see, a small business is doing these big things in the community. That local action is so much more important sometimes.
Right.
And also beer is awesome. And so my husband was just kind of at the time I'd finished my degree in psychology, and then I was kind of wallowing. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So Paul's just well, just go bartend for a while and figure out, what you want.
Right.
2 weeks into working at Iron Horse, and I'm like, this is it. Beer is my life. I'm in beer now. Beer is me. And
What's up?
It just worked out so well. So then not long after, the person who was running the merchandise quit. So I took on just handling merchandise inventory. And then I kind of kept asking questions and kind of nosing my way into this, that, and the other thing. Because as small businesses, you have 5 people doing 10 things, right? So it's oh, do you need help? Can I do this? Can I do that? So after the merchandise stuff, the merchandise inventory, then I started helping out with distributor, warehouse inventory, just management. And then I kept asking more and more about beer questions itself over time, because at the time they were really encouraging all the servers to become certified beer servers, starting that sister-owned stuff. And so I kept asking Tyson, the head brewer, just different questions about beer. And I was like, hey, what about this? What about that? And he's like, I really think that you should actually go to some sort of a program because you want to know all these things and I don't have time to teach you. So, go learn. And I was like, okay, cool. So then as that went on, I started becoming more and more involved in the quality side of things. At about a year and a half in is when Tyson came to me. He's like, hey, you care about this. Why don't you run our sensory panels? I'm like, okay,
Dang,
that's
a jump.
but really sensory panels can be so many different things. We can get into that in a second if you want.
Yeah.
But
that's the nerdy shit I came here for.
Oh man, that's my career now. It's so cool. So then I kind of started going into more and more of the quality stuff. And so by the time I left, I was essentially in charge of quality control at Iron Horse Brewery. So,
nice. Which is when you and I met. You were doing QC for Iron Horse, and I was like, that's crazy. I sell so much of your beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a trip, and it's I don't know. That's quite you compressed a 9-year journey into that little bit, but that's a lot, and it's I love the fact that you were kind of doing this job and you were like, wow, this feels kind of soulless in a way. And these guys, this big company is doing these terrible things. Yeah. And then you just see the beer, a good example of why the beer community is awesome in Iron Horse, just raising money, giving up a day's sales to help somebody who just drinks a lot of their beer. That is 100% what makes this industry awesome.
It was actually literally physically, if I was working in the drive-thru at the place, I could see the parking lot and the back door for that, for the Iron Horse Brewery station room in the downtown, their micro pub at the time. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I'm seeing all these people having fun over there, and I'm just sitting here stuck in a drive-thru with like the same 10 customers a day, who I adored, love my customers, but that was about it.
But
Actually,
yeah.
one of the customers was somebody who worked at Iron Horse, and finally one day I was like, hey, are you guys hiring? And I asked this over the intercom in the drive-thru.
That's a
And
leap of
she was,
faith.
Yeah,
she was
sure
so
is.
nice about it too. She's like, yeah, why don't you apply? And I'm like, I will. So, yeah.
And then a drone just came right ahead above my house.
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, then
That's awesome.
Do you want to know my job now, or do you want to get into that
I do
later?
want to talk about your job now.
Sure. Yeah. It'll be a year on the 28th of February. I have now moved over to, I work at John I. Haas. I am an assistant sensory scientist. So I work in the sensory department. We smell all the things, drink all the things. We make other people smell all the things, drink all the things. So with the sensory department, we're involved all the way from harvest, of the hops in the field before harvest, all the way through to advanced products. So like we have different types of extracts and stuff. We also run sensory panels on that in brewing trials and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which is a trip.
Smell hops all day, which is really funny because I came from Iron Horse where not much hops, but you know, when I
There's a part of this industry I know I'm missing at this brewery.
yeah, well, you know, like it's funny too because like at Iron Horse they make killer IPAs because like that's what we're most excited about as employees there. It was just like, yeah, you can have an Irish Death every day of the week. That's cool, but have you smelled hops? You know, like it just kind of, it's so much fun. But yeah, and since I lived a hop, skip, and a jump away from the Yakima Valley, it was just kind of like, well, I wanted to go either into something a little bit bigger in production size or going into the supply side itself. And like, there's this opportunity where I don't even have to move. Let's give it a shot.
That's awesome.
How
That's
was
fantastic.
the 2022 hop harvest?
It was good. Yeah, so let's see here. So 2022, definitely better than 21 because there wasn't all the wildfires.
Right.
Helpful. I know that the yields were down a little bit. The late spring kind of suppressed a lot of the overall production.
Yeah.
Right now, hops are in a overabundance. The hop market needs to have a little bit of a shrinking of like acreage and stuff because when you think about the bigger drinks industry right now, RTDs and seltzers, especially RTDs anymore, are just ready to drinks for those who don't listen to the vernacular on a daily basis. So the RTD market is just exploding, right?
Yep.
And so the use for hops is just going down a little bit. You know, they were still not in the pre-2019 or pre-2020, beer sales in general. But then also, consumers are looking more for the better for you, or they're being more specific in what they're drinking. So like, there's still a lot of us who want all the hop flavor possible, but then there's also, people are looking for the healthier things, the non-alcoholics and stuff like that, which hops have a place for as well in a lot of these other drinks.
Totally.
In my humble opinion.
E9 just produced their first run of like their version of a hop water.
Oh,
and it's
cool.
Really good. It's
Fun.
delicious. And then
Nice.
Lumberbeard out of Spokane just did one as well. That's been like very popular. But
Yeah,
that's
hop waters are it's
They're
the
great.
easiest way to make something fun and delicious, and you don't have to worry about having 3 and then driving home, right?
totally.
So,
So this is the third year of La Nina,
I think.
right?
I'm not sure.
How does that affect the hop harvest?
You know, I'm not as certain. I think let's see if I go into this correctly. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I don't know. You should probably have Michael Ferguson on the podcast too. He's our breeder. He's the best. But I do know that just the overall climate change in the world is having major effects. Was it the Saws harvest over in the Czech area is down 50% over
Damn, I
regular
didn't know
years.
that.
So when you have certain heat waves or if it's too hot for too long or if it's too cold for too long going into it, you're going to have suppression of overall yield for your hops. So I'm guessing La Nina has an effect to it, but just overall climate change, there's a lot of different things that are affecting hops, and so that's driving different hop breeding. We should definitely talk about hop breeding. Oh, we will, because you guys are going to smell hops, so that'll be good. But yeah, so
Interesting.
yeah.
The joke has been since I was talking about bringing you on, is that you're a professional hop smeller, which probably does simplify your work a bit. But you do sensory for every stage of hop production, basically, right? Like how many different times are you using sensory analysis to choose and to guide production?
Oh, that's a great question. So Well, we'll start with harvest, or actually pre-harvest. So the month of August is when the sensory team, as well as the entire team I'm on, is called the Brewing Solutions team. So the Brewing Solutions team has 3 of us on sensory and 2 people who are Brewing Solutions specialists, who are basically like they're just the go-to person for any application question you may have for a lot of our hops and hop products. So if you could talk to one of the sales team at Haas, and they'll have a lot of good advice as well.
Right.
But then Alejandro, who is also an advanced cicerone, and and Shay Maloney, Alejandro Cortez and Shay Maloney, they go through and actually help breweries as soon as they say like, hey, I don't understand what to do with this like incognito, for example. So it's one of our hop products. So they'll help with like, okay, this is our recommended dosing. This is your like substitution rate. This is what we recommend trying first versus next. So there's the 5 of us essentially who then go to the field, and we literally walk the fields, all the experimental fields, to just grade as many plants as possible. So the experimental fields, let me go back even further. Sorry. Hop breeding. Let's go into hop breeding for a second.
Go for it.
We gotta start with like the beginning of time. So hop breeding. So Michael Ferguson, our hop breeder, is the coolest, who's just great. But hop breeding is, I think it was either him or Jason Peralt. They say that to be a hop breeder, it means you have to be a mass murderer. What happens when you breed hops? It's kind of like every time you cross-pollinate a hop, every single plant is going to be different. It's like human genetics for reproduction.
Right.
So every single one is going to be different. So they do controlled breeding, but they usually start with 10,000 plants, just 10,000 little babies every single year that are 10,000 new little crosses that they're trying to grow. From that, maybe 100 or 200 will survive. So there are so many different things that can happen. It makes it worse when
you just call them babies.
I know, it is. It's bad.
But anyway, go on.
So those little plants, there's going to be, it turns out they might be susceptible to like downy mildew, or there's certain like mite pressures, or their yield is just awful. There's different hardiness issues. So after the first year, maybe 100 or 200. After that, maybe 20. After that, those 20 will start getting, not necessarily fast track, but they'll be set aside that we're going to do breeding trials where we'll grow it into maybe 7 hills instead of 1 hill. In the breeding like vernacular, a single hill, that means that the plant is only in 1 hill that we're looking to see what the overall yield and stuff is. And then when it graduates, it'll go to a 7 hill plot. And then it might go into maybe a half acre or just like a row.
For anybody who didn't know, that's where single hill gets the name.
That's where single hill gets the name. Yeah.
Very nerdy hop reference.
It's very exciting. Like Bale Breaker has a ton of hop references too. It's so great. The Bale Breaker breaks open bales. It's part of the pelletizing production. But, yeah. I cannot. So anywho, it takes about 10 years to get a hop that they actually want. So as a sensory scientist, for our team, what we do is we're smelling the hops usually about, I don't even know. I'm not sure how early on we get into it, but we're getting into the hops like maybe by year 3 or so. And we're going in there and we're smelling those plants and we're trying to figure out, hey, does anything about this plant smell really cool? Because one of the big mysteries in beer in general is that even though the plant may have a cone that smells amazing, its final product in the beer may be completely different. There's all sorts of other transformations that happen. So some of the big buzzwords like biotransformation and stuff like that. There's different things that can happen during the actual brewing process that your hop may not taste like what it tasted like originally. I mean, you change your malt profile and your beer is going to taste different, right? So we're going through and we're smelling those hops as soon as possible, and then we're brewing with it once we can get enough hops. And we're using our panel to actually taste those beers and then help with that feedback for our breeder to see like, hey, if this has a high enough yield, if this has the flavor that people are finding favorable, hey, we might use this again. Or if it has a high enough yield and the flavor is just weird, we might not use it as a commercialized hop down the road, but we might use that as a parent later on for other hops, because maybe if the potency itself of the aroma is just so darn strong, well, hey, maybe we can try to push that into another thing to like elevate the strength of this aroma.
To get this one kind of like compound to carry on to like a new generation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll do that. So that's in about the month of August. By the end of August, hops start getting harvested. So every single lot of hops that gets harvested goes to our team, and we smell every single lot of hops. We smell and evaluate every single lot of hops. So the month of September, I'm basically in Yakima every day just smelling hops. We'll smell up to 60 in a day. We take a lot of breaks. We do a lot of rotations where we get real silly because, when you're smelling that many hops in a day, there's just some things that happen, man.
This is all innuendo.
Do you have like a smelly hop song?
Oh, yeah, we don't. Well, actually, we do. We were playing like lots of musics, just like, getting us pumped up, because like after like day 16 of smelling hops, you kind of get like, dude, fuck.
A little fatigued.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're going into the high alphas. So the high alphas you may not be using for sensory purposes, but you're using it for bittering purposes, but you can't smell a bitter, right?
Right.
So like if you get into some of the, HBC 682, it was formerly known as Pato. So if you go into like some of these higher alpha ones, they're, oh man, it just smells just like garbage sometimes. Sometimes it's great. It's actually funny. So like sometimes we'll find hops that are like, it's one of those, or maybe like Columbus. A lot of people are using Columbus again for flavor. So we're all the Columbus we're actually making full notes on. But for the high alphas, it's just like, it smells like baby barf and dirt. Okay, great. Just like moving right along.
Good thing that's not what we're using it for.
Nope. Yeah. Because the bittering is good. So we go through those. What was it? Last year we did, I think, 1,100 lots of hops.
Holy shit.
Then, so that's the sensory team. In the month of September, we're just smelling hops as soon as they're coming in. Then we actually go through our breeding program, and we start brewing with like about 80 different hops that are coming through the breeding program that we want to see what our sensory results are going to be because they have good yields or whatever. And then from there, we'll do more like in-depth brewing trials with a larger brew, so we can get, because like the first brew is like kind of like yes or no, do we want to investigate it more? And then we'll do a larger brew and actually get full notes on it. And then we start also, we have a program at Haas called Sensory Plus. So some of our products like Lupo Max uses Sensory Plus hops. So Sensory Plus hops means that we're selecting lots that are like the case in point. This is Citra. This is the Citra hop. So the Sensory Plus hops we've flagged for, say, like this is the best hop ever, and then we'll make the special pellet, the Lupo Max, and we can guarantee that the Lupo Max, we're trying to hit the same target profile of flavor year after year as much as possible, because hops are, it's a plant. That's going to be different every year. You talk about the La Nina, you talk about all these different things, you get smoke. You have all sorts of stuff happening. So with the Lupo Max, just Sensory Plus in general, we're trying to select for hops that are consistent because of their flavor profiles and go from there. So then we do that. And then we have all the other advanced products as well. So then if we have like new products like line extensions to like Spectrum. So we have the Galaxy Spectrum now.
Yeah.
Or Eclipse Spectrum. So like all the Australian hops is very fun. We unfortunately don't get to do as much sensory playing on there. Their team does it instead, which is unfortunate. Yeah. But then we brew with that, and then we make sure that those flavor profiles are hitting where they need to be. The bitterness is good. The flavor is good. So we're smelling the hops. We're smelling the beers. We're tasting the beers. We're just constant. Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
I do.
Yeah.
I do want to talk. We're going to take a break in just a second, but I do want to talk about the advanced hop products that you guys do, because that's like, people are actually starting to like advertise that they're using these things, and it's becoming kind of more well known that like advanced hop products are really leading to like crazy results in beer. They're super expressive. They are really consistent. A few years ago, during fresh hop season, myself and another local industry guy did a collab with one of our local breweries, Narrows, with their old head brewer before he went to Fort George to be their R&D brewer. But it was during fresh hop season. We wanted to be like a little bit cheeky, and so we basically put every advanced hop product that you guys make into one beer, just to like show everybody like, yeah, it's fresh hop season, but like there's also these other things that people are working on that are awesome. They're still hop products, but like, and here's what it leads to. And so we made this big double IPA with Incognito, Lupo Max, cryo stuff, like just everything we could find.
Flavor
that
explosion.
It was an explosion for sure.
Nice.
But yeah, I want to talk about that a bit when we come back. We're going to take a super quick break, but yeah, stick around. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. Before we get back to it, I want to do a quick shout out to Channel 253. Our wonderful producer, Doug Mackey, is from Channel 253. Yay, Doug.
Yay,
Yeah,
Doug.
He makes it sound amazing and professional every single week, and we really love him and appreciate that. However, him and his partner, Eric, also do that for many other podcasts as a part of their Channel 253 network of podcasts. They're all podcasts that are Tacoma-based. They're very much dedicated to the enrichment of this community. And if you want to stay connected, learn more about Tacoma, current events, food reviews, and silly beer shit that we do every single week, you guys can absolutely stay connected by supporting Channel 253. Go to channel253.com/membership to sign up and support those guys because it's awesome and what they do is great. Shout out number 2, real quick, to once again Drunk Herstory, which is coming up on March 9th up at Brower's Cafe. Tickets are already sold out, but I would want to encourage everybody to donate, to follow the work that those guys do. It's one of the coolest events that happens in Washington. It's put on by a lot of the rad women that we have in the industry. Rikki's here, and certainly one of them. Washington is blessed to have a lot of crazy, talented, and knowledgeable women in the industry, and they spend that entire night getting absolutely wasted and then speaking publicly about all of the contributions that women have made in and outside of the industry throughout history. So please do grab your tickets early next year when it comes around because it's a great event, but also please do just donate. They've raised something like $30,000 in the past 4 years for Planned Parenthood, and it's a great cause. You can donate directly to them through their Venmo, which is just at Drunk Her Story SEA. So yeah, shout out to those guys because that's awesome, and you should support them too. Sweet, we're back to it. We all have new beer in front of us. So I'm drinking the Ravenna that Sean had. Rikki, what did Sean get you?
Wait, can you say what it is?
The old schoolhouse Zimmer Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
it's
is a
there.
Pink Boots beer.
Yep.
It's a Pink Boots beer.
Which you have
Yay.
done plenty of work
Yeah.
with.
Yeah, so the Pink Boots Society. Have you guys talked about it yet on the podcast?
Not a ton. Like it's come up a little bit,
A
but
little
like
bit with Bethany.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
nice. Okay, sweet. Yeah, so the Pink Boots Society is a group for women and non-binary folks in the fermentation industry.
Yep.
It started off as beer, and but really, like, if you're fermenting something, if you're making alcohol, you're just outnumbered.
Yep.
We're here for you. It's great.
it takes grit either way, man.
Yeah, so every year the big fundraiser for the Pink Boots Society, because it's a scholarship fund, really, in the end, is here to assist and inspire, empower, and educate folks in the beer industry. The big fundraiser for us is a beer. It's not going to be a fucking bake sale. This is beer. What are we doing? So,
Good point.
Yeah, Yakima Chief Hops always is very kindly donates a Pink Boots blend.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tongue twister. Where $2 of every pound of that blend goes back to the Pink Boots Society and works as one of our largest fundraisers for the year.
Yeah.
And this one's the old schoolhouse, and it's quite nice. I like it. Thank you so much for grabbing it too.
Taste pleasure.
During the break, we actually got a fantastic audience question, and I feel terribly inadequate for not thinking of it myself. But we were talking about what your days look like when you're doing hop analysis, sensory analysis. Smelling through 60 hops might not seem like a ton, but it takes a lot of energy. Your sensory muscles are muscles, and they take a ton of work, and they get fatigued. What does a palate cleanser look like on days like that?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. That was a really great question. Jeff Daly is our sensory manager, and he's one of the fair few in the industry, it seems like, that actually has a true research background in sensory science, which is so awesome. Because in the beer industry, you can come from all sorts of directions. But at Haas, they take their science seriously. So Jeff actually has set us up in a really great system. So there's constant rotations and breaks. So not everybody's smelling at the same time. There's somebody who's like inputting information into the computer because you'll see very quickly, as soon as you rub hops in your hands, you get real sticky. Everything gets sticky. So there's somebody who's like putting information into the computer. There's somebody who's bagging up samples for later. And then there's 3 people on the table smelling. Then we'll also take breaks after a certain amount of time or samples, depending on what it is. If it's like CTZ, for example, it's going to take us a while. We're going to take breaks often. Also, we might not actually do the full sensory notes just because it's not needed. It's kind of overall like 1, 2, 3. But we will take actual breaks, so at least like 2 to 5 minutes, sometimes even 20 minutes. We'll just go outside and just like kind of
Reset.
zone out for a second.
Yep.
We'll drink a lot of water. We don't use coffee. So that's something that is really common that people would use in between. But coffee can be so strong and might work as an antagonist for these other smells that you're perceiving.
Right.
So we'll use, it's funny, we have every year we're really like focused in on like very specific things, and one of the things that we focus in on is non-scented hand sanitizer wipes because we need to wash our hands. So
All the
like
time, because hops are very irritating.
Oh man, they're so sticky. Like the hand washing technique. I'll give you a second. But so we actually what was it? There was a non-scented Hunter's hand wipe. So it was like good for people in the field when they're like cleaning up after like doing the field dressing for their deer or whatever.
Oh, okay.
It was an unscented one that worked really well. However, they discontinued manufacturing it. And so now we're like, crap, what do we do? So there's that. There's also on like planes, there's these like those disposable towels that like, it's like you open the pack. It's not like necessarily a like sanitizing wipe, but it's like a disposable like hot pressed towel or whatever.
Yeah.
Those have like a very light soapy aroma, but super duper light. Our friends over at YCH, just shout out the hop community. We talk a lot, especially in sensory. We're all friends. If you see us at a brewery, like if you see Haas sensory people at a brewery, chances are we're hanging out with YCH people, we're hanging out with Hopsteiner people. Like when it comes to certain parts of the hop industry, we're all friends. It doesn't matter.
Sweet.
So
High times.
they use like sometimes they'll have like steaming, actual face steamers to just kind of open,
Whoa.
Yeah.
Nice.
There's a steady supply of Benadryl and allergy medicines of all types. There's Afrin.
Totally.
Like by the end of hops harvest, like we're just Afrin is like just being abused,
Mainlining nasal spray.
Oh man, yeah. You got to do what you got to do.
Totally.
But yeah, so as long as it's unscented, because you got to make sure you use the lows. Because like there's actually, when you think about it, like if you're a Flonase user, Flonase has an aroma to it, so you have to use the Sensa mist, things like that, where it's just kind of like things get weird. But my
all the shit none of us would ever think about in a million years.
But my trick that I always do that I learned was I smell inside my shirt. I just like go
Just
in.
to reset?
Yeah, because I don't wear perfume. I've gotten out of wearing perfume about 8 years ago because of sensory.
Because of this work.
So I smell inside my shirt and just kind of like, okay, resets me. But hopefully that's a long answer, but that's the answer.
No, it's all right. It's just, it's like.
So do you use Bounce?
Nope. Oh, I'm also allergic too, so thankfully, like I kind of like it's like I don't want to go to the hospital, so I don't use Bounce or Tide.
And also, it helps my career.
Yeah.
And back to when you get to the
Yeah.
you've got your 80 experimental, and then they go to the brewery.
Yeah.
What's the base beer look like?
I need Alejandro here. Super simple. There is, I believe he uses, I'm not sure what he uses for the bittering, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually one of our bittering products.
Okay.
Like a Flex or something.
Yeah.
Which also efficiency. That's why everybody's using advanced products. It's not about being cheap, it's about being efficient, and it's the best way to do that stuff. So anywho, I don't remember his recipe. If we're allowed to give it out, I'll send it over. Cause it's, Alejandro, he's working on in our nano brewery. So we have two different breweries at John I. Haas. We have the nano brewery that's run by Alejandro Cortez. Again, the other advanced that's run. He's very awesome. He's got, I want to say it's a half barrel system. I might be a liar. We split that up into a bunch of like little smaller vessels that will then test each single hop. So then it's that one base beer. When we scale up to test it a little bit more, or if we're doing any sort of lager trials, because lager hops, Michael Ferguson, our breeder, he's a real big fan of lagers and a real big fan of lager hops. And the thing is lager hops, those old school hops, are terrible. Their yield is awful.
Sure.
And they're like so sensitive to different changes in temperature. I mean, like the Saaz, for example, if the Saaz harvest in 2022 was down 50%, we're in a crisis, right? We need to make sure that we're breeding hops that can withstand the changing of environment and also be just a little bit more efficient in general,
Sure.
Michael has his own kind of lager series that he likes to work on as well. So those beers will go to it's our Innovations Research Production Brewery. And so the brewmaster there is Virgil McDonald. And then he's also got Jeff Barnes and Max Snyder under him who are running that brewery. And that's a 2 hectoliter system that's very pretty. So if you Google John I. Haas Innovation Center, that's the brewery that you see. That's the one that's got,
It's all shiny.
it's an Easterhuber something German, beautiful brew house.
Of course.
Very, very well engineered. It seems like it's over engineered, but when we're working with breweries that are, very, very, very large, all the way down to the smaller guys, we need to make sure that we have the same technology that they're using too. So we can we pasteurize? We have to be able to pasteurize to make sure that our products are performing well in pasteurization, things like that. Yeah. The one thing they don't have right now is a centrifuge. Hopefully they will soon. So that'd be cool. But they filter, they do all this stuff too in that brew house. So.
Is there a procedure to name the hops?
There is. I don't want to say it's Illuminati, but to me it seems like the Illuminati of hops kind of do it. So it's not that, but it's one
If
of
you
those
don't have a
things-
personal jet,
Yeah.
you get to name hops.
Exactly. Yeah.
Instead of an
So
I, it's a hop.
I might get in trouble for saying that, but in the end, there's a lot of investors in that. These hops that I brought today, they are from the HBC. So it's a hop breeding company, which is going back to the collaboration between hop growers. This is 50% John I. Haas and 50% Yakima Chief hops. You would think that why would we work together? We're we're 2 people that are trying to go for the same market. But when it comes to actual hop production and hop breeding, we just need to, collectively work together to make sure that we're creating the best for everybody.
Yeah.
Much more sustainable.
Yeah. So basically it's the board of the HBC. That's who decides. And they're fancy people.
They're fancy people. Yes, and people can't see, but the room is filled with this crazy aroma right now because Rikki just poured out this beautiful bundle of dried hops.
Yeah.
What is in front of did you just pour this?
Yeah.
Is this Citra or the HBC?
So this is Citra. So I figured we'll start with the Citra.
Yeah.
This is the hop that, when you talk about the craft beer revolution, you can't not mention Citra.
Totally.
So this was before Michael Ferguson joined our breeding program. Gene Probosco was our breeder for HBC. So there's 2 different breeders on the HBC. So the Yakima Chief Ranch is Jason Peralt is their breeder, and then on our side it used to be Gene Probosco, and then
Right.
now it's Michael Ferguson. So
People might recognize Peralt Farms.
yeah, Peralt Farms
Which is very,
is
very popular.
great stuff. Very nice people
Yeah.
too. So Citra. Citra was this HBC variety at one point. I don't remember what the number was. I might
Yeah,
get
it was
fired.
a while ago.
This was, I believe, 2009 or 2012.
Yeah.
2008 or 2012. I want to say it was like a 4-year thing. But this is the hop that kind of broke the mold, right? So when you think about hops beforehand, a lot of people were really into the lager hops. It's going to be a floral, herbal, spicy, just kind of light impact because they were bred for the lagers.
Yeah.
And then Citra came around and it punches you, you
Yeah.
know?
Blew
So-
everybody away.
yeah, so these are whole cone hops. So we packaged this right after taking evaluation for intake. So the best thing to do is you kind of break it apart a little bit. So for those at home who can't see, it's basically like a really compact little brick
Yep.
of. Do they know what a hop cone looks like? Do listeners?
There's plenty of nerds that listen.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So
And a
we're
lot
gonna,
like Ginny grows hops and
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Sean, everybody who's been at the Parkway probably has had a beer with a fresh hop in it.
Exactly. So we kind of break it apart just to get the hops separated from each other, and then you can take them and rub them in your hands.
Is it an issue if I picked my nose a lot as a kid?
I still pick my nose. You're good.
Okay. Cool.
Hey, there's you got to clear it out so that you have more room for aroma particles. Something like that. The big thing is make sure you trim your nose hair so it doesn't get stuck in there.
Yeah.
Damn. Now you tell us.
Yeah. No,
Ron and Sean are like,
that's
"Fuck."
actually that is one of the things.
The itch.
One of our research scientists, she told me, she's like, if you have long nose hairs, trim them before harvest because I had hop oil stuck in my nose hairs and she didn't have long nose hairs, but I've got. If I don't trim them, they curl all the way out. And so I was like, that is so good to know. Thank you so much. Okay.
Dude, totally.
Yeah. So nose hairs. Anyways.
Think about how much aroma you guys have been missing this whole time.
Yeah, right. Okay. So we rub it
No,
around
the
in your
question is,
hands.
what do I do after I trim them? I milk the oils.
Jesus.
Nice. Nice.
you, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so we warmed up the hops in our hands. We kind of rubbed them around. We kind of busted open some of the glands, the lupulin glands. And now, just kind of do it's like the beer aficionado. You do the faraway sniffs, the bunny sniffs. You do the drive-bys. You do the short runs. Oh, yeah, the drive-by. I like that one. Before you get, like, all the way in there, kind of see, like, where your threshold is because you don't want to burn yourself out too soon.
Yeah, if you put your nose straight into your hands, like for anybody who hasn't like, put a handful of like very, aromatic hops into their face, it is like sensory overload for a second. So you really do kind of have to warm up to it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of folks in Tacoma that do grow hops in their yard. The hops that you grow in your yard are so not the same. Like this stuff is just on steroids. It's super aromatic, super oily.
For sure. Yeah. Is it okay if I go around the room? Does anybody want to call out any, what's the first thing that comes to their mind? It doesn't have to be a smell. It can be a memory. It can be an emotion. Like, what does it smell like to you?
I smell black pepper.
Black pepper. Ooh, that's a good one. Okay. Anybody else? Papaya. Very nice.
I get the tropical too, but it's like sharp, underripe tropical starfruit papaya.
I like sniffed the microphone on accident. I was like, oh yeah, let me. Yeah.
I do the little bunny sniff.
Smells like EVA foam. Oh man. Yeah, it's so punchy, and Citra just has so much going on.
Yeah.
I remember I was a buyer like when Citra really started to like it was probably 13, 14 when people started like looking for beers that had certain hops in it. I would get people at the store, do you guys have anything with Citra hops in it? And it's like, no, but I don't know, but I have great beers. Like it was just so hard to like make that connection.
It completely changed the game where people are now looking for like, well, what's the hops? I mean, that's what I asked earlier. I was like, well, before I, go in on whatever beer you're selecting for me, what's the hops in there? It's kind of one of those things where it's like, I really don't want to be the type of person that poo-poos on any sort of like hop or whatever, because like, I don't want it, beer should not be elitist. And I think asking for a hop sometimes can kind of lead into that elitism, but at the same time I know what I like, so I guess I kind of get a little weird. So.
Word.
Yeah. Okay, so Citra, is generally we describe it as citrusy. There's some sweet fruit. So in Haas we have our own lexicon. It's the Hopsest lexicon.
All right.
That's been developed over the years with our research scientists, both in America and in Germany. So we have these broad categories. So there's like citrus, sweet fruit, floral, spicy, herbal, vegetal, that type of thing. And then we've got some sub-attributes in there that kind of varies depending on if you're talking to the American team, or the German team, or the UK team too. But for us, it's usually citrusy, sweet fruit, and floral tends to be the big big categories that we're looking for. So that's Citra. This is the hop that launched craft beer, I'd say.
Dude, it changed a lot.
It did. And that's one of the things that John and Haas, I think, we can be very proud of is that breeding program. Our work in the HBC has really done some cool things. Okay, so that's Citra.
Yeah, I know we have to rush a little bit, but I know you have. So what's the next bag you have?
Sean needs time to vacuum.
It's going to smell so good in here for the next few days.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So you have another bag, and you said it was HBC 1019.
Okay, so nice. HBC, that's the Hop Breeding Company. HBC 1019. This is something that Michael Ferguson has been working on. This has been in the breeding program for a while, so it might be getting close to commercialization. One can hope, because this is real fun. So I'm just going to grab
this is not something that anybody's going to see in a beer anytime soon.
Just share it. Sweet. No, people are using it now, so that's the cool thing. Yeah,
but it's not. It's just not in the commercial.
Yeah, so it doesn't have a name yet. So the acreage is a lot lower, so it's going to be a little bit harder to get to. However, there's various companies that we're working with that do sell it. So like Yakima Valley Hops might have it. Willamette Hops might have it. That type of situation.
Gotcha.
And so 1019. This is, if I remember correctly, this is completely Michael Ferguson's work. So he's gotten to the point,
cool.
because, a hop takes 10 years for
Yep.
it to actually become a named hop. This is about the time that Michael Ferguson started making his decisions on the breeding.
Right.
And 1019
Really? Is like his baby from start to
is-
finish?
yeah.
That's really cool.
That's cool.
It's so exciting, right? It's like one of those things where it's like when it takes that long to create your thing. So Simon, our breeder for the HPA, I believe Eclipse or Enigma, one or the other, was his complete baby. Yeah. And so, 1019. Let's get into 1019. You go to
Totally.
Citra, that big deal that was, big about 10 years ago.
Yep.
Now we're going into the new age of hops. So this is, it's good for you.
man.
Oh, wait, it's sour. I guess that might be a little weird, but,
It's just one little leaf.
we'll have to talk through the tasty notes later. Okay, so the
yeah.
1019. Who wants to talk about what they're smelling here?
Pears.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're
And almost like so much pear. It's like artificial pear.
Ooh.
So rich.
Like pear drop
like
candy.
Haichu pears.
Ooh,
Haichu,
good
call.
Good
Oh my
call out,
And
yeah.
that
On the
nice,
fucking
there's a
nose.
nice coconut freaking
Coconut,
notes
yes.
to it. And it's just like a little bit of tangerine peel in there. It's
Ooh, awesome. Okay.
fantastic.
That's
You
nice.
get kind of there's a lot of wine grapes that'll do this too, but you actually get a touch of this rubbery, like some people say when you open up a can of tennis balls,
Yeah.
something like that.
The 3MH kind of situation.
Yep. You kind of get a little bit of that, which is crazy.
How about from the audience? Anybody have any?
Yeah, the whole room is checking this out.
Tropicals? Pineapple, nice, yeah.
I get a little fresh lavender sage with tropical in there, just a little bit.
Ooh, fresh lavender sage with the tropical. If you can't hear that at home, folks, that's
Yeah, that's like-
exactly. Yeah, it gets interesting, right?
It's greener than the Citra. It's
Yeah.
much more herbal. It's not as sharp citrus. It's much more there's almost savoriness to it,
Yeah.
even with the pear and stuff.
To me, it kind of goes
savory's
almost a bit of a
on.
if a Sharpie is pleasant smelling.
Sure, sure.
You just opened your Sharpie and it's the fresh one of the day, and you can
That
go
might
and
be
write stuff.
the tennis ball thing. It's probably
Yeah.
that crossing over that. Yeah, I totally get that. Single Hill. Speaking of Single Hill and their nerdy hop work and references, they have a really cool series, their Outcross series, where they
love it.
write just the best nerdy shit. But they've done 1019 in their Outcross series with a few others, and so they'll basically brew the exact same beer. They'll split it in between 3 fermenters and then dry hop it with single experimental hops. So you have literally the exact same base beer 3 different ways. And they've done a 1019, and it was
Yeah.
I mean,
Their
it's-
Single Hill is great. They're actually next Friday. They're the Yakima Pink Boot Society chapter. Single Hill is brewing our collaboration brew for the release on International Women's Day, which is
great.
also the start of for Haas. We have 2 different kind of educational outreach programs at John I. Haas and Barth Haas. There's Hops Academy and Hop Flavorist.
Yep.
So we're starting Hop Flavorist the week after next too. So that'll be
Nice.
fun times. So if you guys want to talk about hops and hop flavor, I am your girl.
I know we're starting to run out of time, believe it or not, because I know we're having a ton of fun.
Oh shoot, sorry.
But while we're smelling through hops right now, do you have any fuck up stories?
Oh shoot, so many.
That's what I like to hear.
Okay, so I mean, I wouldn't say it's the reason why I left Iron Horse, but after a while, it's just I don't want to have to deal with a fucking can seam ever again in my life. But
The canning team?
no, not the canning team. I love our canning team, but the seams on a canner.
Oh,
If you can talk to any production brewer who are actually running those packaging things, can seams are the goddamn worst. But here's a little tidbit that we learned at Iron Horse. Don't drop your micrometer. Dropping your micrometer could set your micrometer off by just enough. So the 0 was still a 0, but if you measured it against a measuring block, you were off by 0.003 inches or something like that, which is the make or break point for a leaky seam.
yep.
So that, I don't know who dropped it, and we never had to actually deal with it before because there was nowhere in the literature that said check your micrometer besides just checking it at the 0.
Yeah.
And so, that's fun.
Dude.
Yeah.
Did you guys
How
catch it
long
in
did it
time, or did it
take,
go? Yeah.
Oh, it took a second because we also had we had just installed a new machine that was having some just overall issues, and so we had somebody in helping us with the table lifter, and then he's like, "Hey, your measurement says this, and my measurement says that," and I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And so it was unfortunately a compounding issue. So it didn't help anything. It didn't actually cause the damage itself per se. Did not help it though. So yeah, it was So that or the time I broke the printer at Iron Horse by printing a picture of naked. What was his name? Not Burt Reynolds, but the other one that was in Playgirl.
Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck, yeah. So I tried to print off an iron-on transfer of Tom Selleck to wear to our mustache party. So yeah, I broke the printer doing that too.
Page 47. I already got it. Right?
Page 3 in my head.
So there's that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it.
Oh man.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talk hops. We'll talk hops anytime again if you guys
Totally.
want to.
I can't wait till you're back in
This was
town.
fucking awesome.
Whenever you get your
This
next
was
tattoo.
really fun.
Yeah.
Seriously, you're such
Or
a
maybe
fucking
we could
pro.
do a harvest episode. You guys can come to Yakima.
Doug, trying to go to Yakima?
Dad, can
Yeah.
we? Can we go to Disneyland?
Yeah, we will be in touch, Ricky.
Okay.
All right, Grit and Grainers, email us at cheers@gritandgrainpodcast.com with your comments, opinions, and new hop names such as Adorkable, Sus, Yeet, Plinky, Happy Hogan, Malarkey, and Mr. Bob Dabalina. Mr. Bob Dabalina.
Oh, that is
We
a
read and
beer.
drink everything we receive, and we try to respond as quickly as we can. If not online, then on air. You can subscribe to Grit and Grain on Amazon, Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher, and please leave us a review. Also, check us out on channel 253, Doug,
253.
and gritandgrainpodcast.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for episode notes, beer news, and words of advice, because we tell you to never leave the house without a scarf. And sure, last night you did have a scarf on, but you forgot your jacket and pants, and you were just wearing ski goggles and a rubber diaper with a raccoon tail pinned to it, which wasn't enough. And now there's nothing worse than being bedridden, unless you count being boat-ridden, or even worse, raft-ridden, or just plain ridden. You could just take some aspirin or an ibuprofen, but you don't believe in drugs, and you don't believe in Easter Bunny or the Tooth Fairy or oyster stouts, but you do believe in Santa Claus because once you woke up and saw him kissing your mom under the mistletoe, she told you not to tell Dad because Santa Claus smelled like booze and looked a lot like your dad's best friend. And that would really freak Dad out because he goes bowling with Santa Claus. If this podcast is not what you expected, please alter your expectations. We'd rather ride a bus that can't go under 50 miles an hour or ride a handbasket on its way to hell than trust Tesla's self-driving car. No such thing as a bad time to visit Tacoma. No such thing as too much barley wine. Woo! Tune in next Friday for more sweet chatter. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yay.
Thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us at Grit and Grain Podcast wherever you get your social media and catch new episodes every Friday. Cheers.
Good up.
This is channel 253.